Hello, everyone. Lucy here. I'm so excited to be here with Claire Wasserman of Ladies Get Paid, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. I think of Ladies Get Paid as a community and or platform that really helps advance women professionally and financially. Would you say correct?
Oh, good. That means our marketing. We did a good job. Yeah, I don't know if I can find a better word than prosperity, but that is what we want. We want women to prosper in all of the ways that they define it. So that just means sort of having more in your life, having independence, having, the freedom to make bold choices, and to take command of all things in your life, starting with your career and your money, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now we got reconnected because Ladies Get Paid is currently holding it's like a month-long event series, the Ladies Get Hired Boot Camp. And yeah, if you want to speak to that a little bit so everybody can get connected.
Sure. Yeah. So Ladies Get Hired. It's an annual boot camp led by me that gives you everything that you need to become, a really standout candidate. It already started. So I would say for this year, best thing anybody can do who's watching, listening. We've got a master course called How to Get the Job, ladiesgetpaid.com. You'll find it. And just, join our newsletter. Stay tuned for the next time that we do the boot camp.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So when I think about when I've looked you up before, or I've seen the resources shared in Ladies Get Paid, it's really tangible stuff around negotiating job offers, tips for job seekers, reaching your earning potential, and then also some things that are more, I know touching on imposter syndrome and perfectionism and all of that. But today I'd love to get more on that kind of broader look, and especially from your perspective, your own career story. So if we can start, I'd love to, if you could share a bit about your journey leading up to founding Ladies Get Paid.
Sure. Long story short, my career totally makes sense when you look back, but it is definitely nonlinear. So long story short, graduated college with a job where I was supposed to be the research assistant to somebody writing a book in New York City. And that fell through about a month and a half before it was supposed to start. Ended up becoming an au pair in the south of France. And then from there, just jumped over to Sarajevo, Bosnia, where a friend of mine was directing a film. And I said, let me help produce it. I think I can raise some money for you, which I did. But I made the decision to not go into film at the time, at least because it was important to me that I be able to have more control, more creative control. And I knew that would be many years before I would get that with, if I went into the film industry, but I never forgot it. And a lot of what that experience was actually allowed me to get jobs in totally unrelated fields, primarily because we were actually nominated for a Student Academy Award. So this is my advice to anybody who is feeling like they don't know what to do in their career, or they're, sort of agitated with where they're at and they want to make a pivot, but, people aren't giving them a chance. Give yourself a chance. Do a side project. Again, I didn't go into film, but I used that experience and my scrappiness, my resourcefulness to go and get my next job and actually a future job after that. Which was fundraising for a nonprofit. As I worked at this nonprofit, I realized, you know what? I want to work in a place that has a faster environment, because that's key. It's not just what you do, but it's where you do it, right? What is your everyday? And I just want to move fast. Okay. And so the nonprofit felt a little slow to me. I also, I didn't really have a purpose per se in my career vision, but I knew I wanted to have big impact on a lot of people at mass scale. And one way to do that is to go into the media. I had a mentor at the time. We can talk about mentorship if you want in just a bit, because this is a very good story. But my mentor at the time ran an experiential marketing company. And I went to him and I said, I'd like to work for you if you'll hire me. I really pitched myself, for a job with him because I realized if I could work with brands, right? If I could steer their advertising dollars and create campaigns that were, creative, right? So sort of going back to my film, the storytelling, but it would have a broader reach, right? Because this is media. It would move fast since we were a startup. And he said yes. And then from there, he closed the company and I got unemployment, and I had an idea for a startup. And I looked at my finances and I had this realization that it is not so much what you make as it is what you spend. Okay. And so I looked at a runway that I could give myself if I subletted my apartment in New York and I lived month to month with friends on their couches. And I had a startup called Thumbprint that it was video interviews with people who had different kinds of careers about their paths. And then, it created a database basically. So you would look up, certain career paths, but it would all be tagged. Okay. Different elements of their stories tagged with things like failure and pivot and, negotiations. And my goal was to basically get people to think outside the box when it came to their careers. It failed. It failed because I could not figure out, I couldn't make a decision on how to monetize.
Mhm.
And I realized, and this is my advice for anybody who is maybe thinking about getting an MBA or wants to start their own business, go and see if you can work for a company and learn from them, because it's kind of like getting your MBA, but they're paying you instead of the other way around. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go work for a company where I can really see what it's like to make business decisions. And I want it to be career related, right? Now, this is not a long story short, but we'll just jump to my next job, which was the director of marketing at the Art Directors Club, which is a network that helps connect people in visual communications. And then from there, got poached for Working Not Working, workingnotworking.com, which is basically the for-profit version of the Art Directors Club. It connects mostly freelancers for work in tech and design. They actually just got acquired by Fiverr, which was, really exciting to be part of. And I was director of marketing there. And so what I just, over time, I realized one of my greatest strengths was my ability to build community. It's networking. It's, creating experiences that are memorable, mostly in person. Obviously, things have changed. And so after about a year and a half at Working Not Working, I just had this fundamental realization that I was more moved to help people thrive at work as opposed to just getting them the work, and then specifically for women. And so starting Ladies Get Paid, it really was, an amalgamation, and a continuation of everything that I had done before that, just getting a little bit more focused, over time. So in a way, it feels like a return to Thumbprint. So that's why I never want to say, real failure, right? This is just kind of round two. But then with, all of the knowledge that I learned over the years, and I'm still working on some film stuff in stealth mode. So, everything you do has meaning if, you just have to find the meaning in it.
Yeah.
So that's my long-winded, not long story short.
I think that's amazing. I think to see, right now, so many people are in a period of career transitions, but to see like how they can tie together and come back around and that finding meaning in them. I mean, for instance, like you said, find a side project or take a chance on yourself. My whole background is in wellness and food technology. And so then I built a side project that was a teen mentorship app with friends. And that opened me up into this whole space and this world. And now I'm here. So
Exactly.
it was just, like a small thing that can turn into something big. And, but thank you for sharing that and having those little tidbits of information along the way. Like I say that too, so many people right now in career transitions that are looking for kind of like some direction are like, do I take a course? Do I go back to school? And what are the best ways? And obviously there's some things where you have to go back to school or get a certification, but for the most part, there's a lot of non-traditional ways that you can get that experience and stand out. Yeah.
Sure. The only
Yeah.
school, so I did get a master's certificate during the pandemic on behavioral finance and financial psychology. So that felt like I needed to get a certificate for it. But other than that, everything has been, sort of ad hoc courses,
Yeah.
winning networking groups, Ladies Get Paid, huge reader, Kindle reader, and taking the notes. And, I say, just follow your curiosity, whatever it is, like put passion aside. It's the thing that you can't get out of your head. It's the articles that and publications that you keep coming back to and reading, problems that you want to solve or you're frustrated by, right? The wage gap, that was the impetus for starting Ladies Get Paid. It was something that I was angry about. So I say, pay attention to how you feel in all of this. And that's been a good guiding force for me, because how you feel, it's really just your intuition, and, you need to trust that, I think.
Yeah. That makes me think. So something I wanted to talk to you about today, as we're finding that a lot of our Rise members are hoping to kind of they're on a path of self-discovery and building confidence first, and then they can take a leap. But there's a little bit of, we like to say that we want people to feel like they can be unapologetically themselves in their career. So, the thing that makes you mad and the curiosity, makes me want to ask, like, how, if you have any advice from your own experience or that you've seen in Ladies Get Paid, of how to authentically be you in your career, or like being brave in that career journey.
Mm-hmm. I think that this means different things, obviously, to different people, particularly if you are a person of color or you're marginalized. You have different considerations. I want to make sure everybody feels like they're in an environment where they are safe, first and foremost, where they're respected. It's not toxic. So kind of putting aside any of like the red flags,
Yeah.
I think it's a place where you can grow. That's because growth is life, right? Growth is success. Because it's not about today, it's about how are you going to use today to get to tomorrow. So, if you're not learning where you're at, if the first question is, can you pitch yourself for something, right? Find an opportunity there. Everything I've ever done in my career, whether it was at a job or outside of the job, it was the self-directed parts of it that got me further. So it wasn't what I was ever given, it was what I created, right? But again, it has to be pitched in a way that it's a benefit to them, even though it's a benefit to you. So I think if you are growing, then you're safe and comfortable enough to do that and to be yourself. But I am of two minds. There's the whole like bring yourself to work, whole self. We also have different selves for different environments for good reason, right? Same thing with friends. I'm sure that you have different friends in your life. Some people you call when you're sad and some people you call when you want to go out, right? Who I am at work doesn't have to be who I am at home. Like that may actually be quite exhausting to try to do that. And you may feel better just to, do your 9 to 5 and then go home. So I'm evolving in how I feel about it. That being said, if you ever feel like you are twisting yourself in a pretzel, you're really people pleasing, you're over indexing on accommodating others, right? That's a problem. So I think pay attention to the energy that you're spending. It should really be on your work and your growth, not on how you appear in this space. And if you find you are spending more energy on how you appear in the space, then it's probably not the place for you.
Yeah, that's really great advice, especially in thinking about that. I think that a lot of people are in this space of what does it mean? Do you want to bring your whole self to work, or is it more of like, can we say like the best self, that version of you that you want to bring? But that, I think it's almost like, as we've been given more power to be our whole selves, we get to now decide, can we pull it back? Like, maybe I don't want to be all this. It seems like it's actually like probably a good step that we're now questioning that. But yeah,
with like startups, saying we're all a family. Well, first of all, no, because you could get fired from a job, and I guess maybe you could get fired from a family. I don't know, but no, it's a paycheck too. And my concern sometimes when we focus so much on like passion as work and like your team is your family, then it, in a way, I think positions your paycheck as secondary, and it maybe sets you up for potential exploitation. So it's all a very personal question, but I guess, again, look at the balance of, am I growing more than I'm stagnant? And am I spending more energy trying to be a certain person than just being? And those two would be kind of the two things to look at.
Yeah. I think, this step of like really understanding what is important to you, and, if, how you want to show up and all of that. I think, we're also seeing a theme of just kind of building some confidence, and I think some of it, you talk about imposter syndrome and perfectionism, but, do you have any tips for people who want to gain some more confidence, especially those who are trying to make a career change or have been doing they want to make, maybe it's a career change, or they just want to step into something bigger, but have been doing the same thing for so long that they don't know where to really like begin?
Yeah. Yes. Well, first of all, information is power. So you may need to be spending more time, not necessarily like doing, but actually absorbing. So make sure you are networking, you're showing up to events. I mean, all this can be virtual now, right? So join communities like Ladies Get Paid, right? And you don't, sort of act as if, right? So, just because you might not be in tech today, go join those tech groups and ask questions, and also ask questions that give you real answers. So like, if you're thinking about going into a certain role, okay, I'd love you to know what time do you have to wake up in the morning? Like, what's your day to day? What's the tough stuff, right? Like, what are the challenges that you're going to have? Because it's not, if you talk about sort of the glory and the glamour of it, then we're fantasizing here. It really, I think, comes down to, sort of the worst part of the job. You should be aware of that. So first of all, information gather, and then also understand, what do you need to be doing to fill in the gaps potentially? So would that actually have to be a side project that you don't necessarily need to start? You might need to put yourself out there and see, is anybody working on something like this that I can be part of? Go volunteer. I mean, obviously it's not very Ladies Get Paid of me to say don't charge, but if you need to build a portfolio, could you ask somebody, can I write a blog post? Can I shadow you? Or, listen, Ashley, who's my CEO now, she didn't start Ladies Get Paid. She was a member and came to every event and offered to help and started to volunteer, and then eventually joined, eventually became my co-founder, and eventually became the CEO, and also my wife. And I was married at the time to somebody else, to a man. So she is a great example of somebody who completely repositioned what she was doing through participating in a pre-existing group. So you have no excuse. Everybody can do that. And then it's also understanding, how do I demonstrate that my skills are transferable? I shouldn't maybe use the word skills. I should say maybe strengths. It might be more of you telling the story of your, patience and empathy and resilience, right? Like the humanness, right? That's special. Only you, have that. But I would say most likely the thing that you'll really have to underscore when you're pitching yourself and feel confident about this is, can you show them that you learn fast, right? Because that's the key. If it's like, take a chance on me, but here's examples of, when I learned quickly, right? Or, I did the work of multiple people. Like I'm a, resilient, resourceful person. You can't teach that. So, just don't underestimate the power of who you are and not just the work that you've done. Obviously, it's a much longer thing. I mean, that's why we have ladiesgethired.com, for our boot camp. But I everything I've done has been self-created. Like I didn't have a background really in any of this. But I would say first step is, do you have all the information you need to even, know how you're going to be positioning and pitching yourself?
Totally. Yeah. Like taking that step to really evaluate and reflect and learn and absorb, like you said, before then being like, okay, now I know how I need to position these strengths and skills.
And also, what's maybe a bridge to get there, right? Would it be, let's say, again, you want to go into tech and you want to completely change what you're doing. Maybe we don't change what you're doing right now, but we get you to join like a company, right? That's like in tech, and then you can network internally. So I don't want anybody to shortchange themselves here. We only live one life, but I think you're going to probably have to do multiple things, right? You're going to have to be networking while you maybe join a company in the industry you want, continuing to do what you're doing. And then, taking a class or a side hustle. Okay. In 6 months, now let's, offer yourself up for, an opportunity at work that's more aligned with what you want to do, just to demonstrate that you can, be a multi-hyphenate. So there's not one way to do it. So that should hopefully make people feel, a little bit more encouraged. We're all making it up,
Yeah, I know. I feel like, we're all just like bumping around being like, I know stuff. Yeah.
Except for my brother, who's a surgeon. Thank God.
Yeah,
he went for 20 years. Yeah.
That one you need to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned networking, and I know that this is a very big topic. If there's any like short way to just also, I think it's the confidence piece again with some networking, like how to make that leap and go, hey, I'd love to learn more about what you do. I'm thinking about getting into this field. For some people, that's really scary. And I don't know if other than just like try it out, what's the worst that can happen? But is there any maybe other advice that you can give briefly on, or your own experience around starting to network?
Yes, absolutely. So if anybody just emailed me and asked me that, I don't have time. So that's not a great way to approach it.
Yeah.
I would really approach somebody by being helpful first.
Mhm.
So I am, there are certain women in the Ladies Get Paid community who I feel quite close to, because they're the ones who show up. They're the ones who, repost things like, hey, you check out this boot camp, or they'll like something on Instagram and say, good luck on your presentation. They refer people. Like, it takes them 2 seconds and it goes such a long way. I think that's huge. So start there. And there's like probably 8 of them or more. And I've written letters of recommendation for them.
Yeah.
I've like meaningfully helped them, because over time we built a relationship that did start with them, paying it forward effectively, right? I also think that, and also, by the way, when you build relationships with people, you have to stay continually in touch. And a great way to do that is, hey, here's an article I found that made me think of you. Oh, hey, I think you'd be a great guest on this podcast or speaker at this conference. Can I recommend you? Just anything that demonstrates that you're thinking of them. PS and an update from you, right?
Yeah.
Also, you could ask somebody a question that has a specific answer that's not going to take them much time, right? What was the one thing that you wish you had known at the beginning of your career, or when you were pivoting, industries, what did you feel like, what was something you talked about that demonstrated that you had transferable skills, or, because it's really just respecting the person's time is probably the thing that you need to demonstrate first and foremost. So I would say, starting with paying it forward, helping other people out, and then coming with like a really focused ask, is a good place to begin.
Yeah. I think that some people's apprehension of this outreach is that, like, worried about time, and I think so it's kind of like it's inherent in us that we know, like, people are busy. How do I make this worth their time? And so to say there are is easy, there's ways to offer up help that go such a long way. Yeah. That even if you're not an expert yet. So that's
Yeah.
really
I
cool.
mean, listen, here's the thing. I want to help people who are curious and excited to learn. It makes me feel good. So just knowing that your enthusiasm and curiosity, that goes a long, long, long way. You don't need to be the expert. You don't need to have a lot of experience. I have those contacts for myself. But what I'd like to have in my life are, curious people, again, that makes me feel good to help.
Yeah.
So really don't discount your enthusiasm, especially if you're young. Especially, we were all you at some point.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to ask you is just a little bit about the resilience element. Like, if you have tips for people on how to pick themselves up when they've been knocked down. We're seeing a lot of people who are, trying to like celebrate a little bit of this rejection. There's a lot of people applying for a lot of jobs right now, and people trying to stand out, and it can get discouraging and lead to burnout, and just thinking about how to kind of bolster yourself up more. I mean, we think obviously community is great for this, but if there's other things, especially from your own experience.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about resilience real quick.
Yeah.
We were sued for
Yep.
gender discrimination by a group of men's rights activists. Okay. That is a much longer story. If anybody wants to check it out, it's at ladiesgetsued.com. What we did was we used the experience to go raise money. I got a book deal out of it. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me emotionally, but the best thing that could happen to me in my confidence. I actually gained a lot of confidence from it. And also professionally, it was one of the better things that happened to us, actually.
Yeah.
Horrible things can happen. You just have to find, the meaning in it and be an opportunist with it. So my question is, well, first and foremost, in this process of finding work, are you taking care of yourself? So really making sure when you look at your calendar, you've penciled in times of decompression, or, you're walking outside. Like, how are you, revitalizing yourself? Don't wait till you're burnt out. Okay. So make sure you're doing that. And then are you learning from this, right? Like, are you, do you know what's wrong? A lot of times these companies will not tell you why you're rejected, but have you had multiple people look at your cover letter, practice interviewing with you? Like, if you can get feedback from somebody somewhere so that at least you're improving, because then you can, you're moving forward, right? Even if you're not moving forward with the company, you're moving forward in your own journey.
Mm.
Also really doing a lot of self-reflection on, is this the path for you? There may be a reason you're not getting the job because it's not actually aligned with who you are, right? And your values and your goals. Perhaps we should be looking at a little bit of a different path. So that's, that's a good question too. And then also I would say, really, I mean, every job I've gotten has come through relationships. So, applying cold online, chances are you're not going to get it for anybody. I don't think I would even get it. So really it's actually building relationships at companies that you're interested in before any job openings are online. It's like get in the door before the door is open. So, constantly applying to jobs online, still do it, but just make sure you're also, back channeling as best as you can.
Totally. Yeah. Rise is all about that. Like trying relationship building in terms of recruitment and hiring and how that is both for companies and professionals. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Great
it's very
advice.
tiring. It's very tiring. I totally get this. It's like we all have full-time jobs and then we're applying for work and then that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I really would say take, ample time to optimize your schedule. Can you do less work at your job? Can you find ways to like delegate and, really just see where you can make your life easier and how you can rejuvenate and replenish yourself, just as like a base foundation as you go through this. Cause again, I it is tiring. It's emotionally exhausting. And you do take it personally, even if it isn't technically personal. It's just business. But remember, you're learning, you're gaining new contacts. You never know where it's going to lead. You never know.
Never know. Absolutely. Wow. I am. Thank you so much for all this advice and your insight and your story. I've learned a lot myself too.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm glad
How
it's
can
helpful.
people continue to, jump into the Ladies Get Paid community or keep in touch with what you're building?
Sure. Yes. So just, come and join. It's free, ladiesgetpaid.com. We'll add you to our online network. There's also a pro membership, which gives you more perks. You'll see there's a video library. We do webinars once a week, usually. Follow us on Instagram or all socials, right? Ladies Get Paid. And then me personally, Claire Gets Paid. And then if you want to check out the book, it's anywhere and everywhere, but also ladiesgetpaid.com/book. And, thank you. Thanks to you and the work you're doing and to your community. And, we only live one life. We spend most of it at work. And so it just feels, I'm just very honored to be in the space, with you and everybody who's watching. I believe in you. Now go get paid.
Go get paid.